For joining us. This is Sean here at Zyxel. Today we're doing our monthly introduction to Nebula. So if you are one of our new partners or you're an old partner that's been sort of ignoring Nebula all this time, this is sort of your introduction to it. We do also periodically do some more in-depth Nebula presentations where we give you some tips and tricks, best practices, things like that. That is not today's webinar. Today's webinar is the introduction. So as we go through, if you have any questions, you can use chat or the Q&A part of the Zoom interface to send in any questions you have, and hopefully I'll be able to see them. Zoom keeps tweaking the interface and things are different than they used to be, but I think we're going to be good. So let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you that are new, just a couple quick slides on who Zyxel is. So Zyxel has been making computer networking equipment for over 30 years. We are not a new company. And we have been operating in the United States, based out of California here for pretty much that entire time. Now, our corporate headquarters is based out of Taiwan. So we are a Taiwanese company, but we do have global operations. And as I said, California has been our US headquarters for the past 30 plus years. We have over 100 million devices deployed out in the field and a little over 700 employees. So, Zyxel is part of the Zyxel group, and this does cause a little confusion for people, so I do like to talk about this. I am part of what's called Zyxel Networks. So Zyxel Networks is the branch of the company that is focused on what we call channel business. So that's things like switches, firewalls, access points, things like that. We do have a sister company doing operations as Zyxel Communications. So Zyxel Communications is who focuses on the telco side of things, with their primary focus being on CPE devices. So things like TR069 or Plume managed routers. That's handled by Zyxel Communications. So we do often run into issues where you come across a Zyxel Communications person at a trade show and they don't know anything about our switches or access points, or you stumble across one of us at Zyxel Networks and we can't really help you or know a lot of the questions when it comes to some of the CPE products that are being sold. So just be aware of that. There are two different groups operating under Zyxel. And then Zyxel Group is, of course, the parent company. And then the other thing on this slide that I wanted to highlight here is MitraStar. So MitraStar is our manufacturing arm. So we maintain manufacturing facilities in Taiwan, China, and elsewhere. So now on to Nebula, which is why you are here. So Nebula was the first full stack cloud networking solution aimed at the SMB space. So what does that mean? So first off, full stack, meaning it manages more than one type of product. So back in 2016 and before, when we launched Nebula, really the only player that was offering full stack was Cisco's Meraki. And in fact, Meraki had only just been purchased by Cisco a few years before. So most of the other solutions were aimed specifically just at access points and pretty much nothing else. So basically we looked at and saw what Cisco was doing and said, hey, that's great. But the problem with the Cisco Meraki solution is it's expensive. It was aimed at the enterprise space. So you're paying for a lot of features a lot of MSPs and VARs don't really need. So we said, hey, this would be a perfect solution for the SMB space, which was being overlooked at that time. So that's how Nebula came about. So we launched in 2016, years before most of our competition. And at the time, we supported switches, wireless LAN, and security. And since then, we've branched out a little bit. I really keep forgetting to update this slide, but we've got hundreds of products supported now, not just the 61 on this slide. So the idea behind Nebula and cloud management in general is to take all of this stuff that you have to do when you're setting up a new network for one of your customers and remove some of the stuff you have to do and what we can't remove to streamline it so you spend less time on it. So less money up front, less time spent configuring and getting things ready, which also then saves you money. Since time is money, you're paying your staff, you're paying your employees to do this. So let's talk a little bit about what Nebula offers. So basically, it's giving you a single pane of glass to manage all of your Zyxel devices and all of your customers. So some of the cool things Nebula can do is it can let you start configuring your switches, your access points, your security appliances without having to take them out of the box. Most of our Nebula compatible products have a QR code on the outside of the box or on the belly label. You simply scan that with your phone, assign the device to your customer and their site, and you can do your full configuration from there. At no point do you have to go into the device's GUI. You don't have to put it in cloud mode. You don't have to point it to a management platform, nothing like that. Scan, configure, and then once you plug in the device at your customer's location, it will see that you want to manage it in the cloud, put it into cloud mode, and download its configuration at that time. So everything's been done to make things super simple and easy for you to do. We've got a number of wizards and tools that make setting up and setting up customers take a lot less time than it normally would, as well as giving you access to our mobile app, which just makes things a lot easier as far as checking on things and seeing what's going on with your customers. So to use Nebula, you need to buy Zyxel hardware. That's basically it. There's nothing else you need to do. So again, you don't have to point the devices at the cloud or tell them that they're being put into cloud management mode. You don't have to set up a piece of software on a server somewhere, either in your data center or on the customer location. There's no cloud keys, there's no CNA devices. Everything you need to use Nebula is built into the Zyxel hardware itself. And the great thing when it comes to Nebula is basically anywhere you have access to a web browser and an internet connection, you have access to your customers and their networks. So no matter where you are, if there's an emergency, you're able to take care of that customer. So some of the features here that you can find in Nebula is built-in user management. So oftentimes you'd want to use a username and password to authenticate people on the wireless LAN for 802.1x authentication, etc. So you can, of course, always set up your own Radius server, but we do maintain a cloud-hosted database that you can use to simplify things if you so choose. When it comes to guest access, we have a bunch of built-in tools that make it easy for you to set up and deploy a guest wireless network, giving you access to things like a captive portal with user authentication, vouchers, terms of service agreements, etc. The ability to isolate wireless users from each other, the ability to isolate wireless guest users from the rest of your users, etc. And all of that functionality is built into our wireless access point. So that's a key thing here. To use Nebula, you do not need a complete Zyxel solution. Nebula manages Zyxel equipment. So if you decide to mix and match your network, for instance, they've got a different brand of gateway, um, doesn't matter. You can still use Nebula to manage your Nebula compatible access points. And as I was saying here, when it comes to captive portals and wireless LAN security, it's all hosted on the access point itself. So even if you're using another vendor's gateway, it doesn't matter. You can still do captive portal, you can still do guest isolation, etc. So all configurations are done through the cloud. You simply go to nebula.zyxel.com, log in, and do your configuration changes there. They are automatically pushed out to the client device or to the Nebula compatible devices automatically. Same thing goes with firmware updates. You can set those up and schedule those through the cloud, and they'll automatically be pushed out. Again, at no point do you need to directly access the hardware itself or be on site other than to plug in the device initially. Some of the other cool features we have on the wireless LAN side of things, single click wireless mesh. Now, mesh is something that's really popular on the consumer side, never really took off on the business side due to call it quality of service, especially for those of you trying to do voice over Wi-Fi, etc. And that's really changing now with Wi-Fi 7. So our mesh mode, if you're using Wi-Fi 7 access points, defaults to MLO multi-link operation by default. So you've actually got simultaneous mesh connections being established on multiple radios simultaneously. So at least two, sometimes three, depending on which access points you're deploying. So that gives you a lot better latency, a lot less risk of interference, degrading the quality of service, etc. So now suddenly mesh makes a lot more sense from a business standpoint. When you've got a customer complaining about maybe some gaps in coverage, you no longer need to run Cat 5 or Cat 6 these days to that location. You can simply put in another access point, give it power, and it will automatically mesh back to your network to expand that coverage. And of course, we support all the standard levels of security and features you would expect. So WPA3 Enterprise, WPA2 Enterprise, as well as pre-shared key, and industry standard technologies like 802.11r, K, and V for faster and assisted roaming. On the switch side of things, we give you a nice cool interface. So you basically can virtually stack your switches so you can see what's going on across multiple switches simultaneously. You can configure ports across multiple switches at the same time. And we give you a nice visualization of what's going on with your switches. You can quickly and easily see which ports have devices connected to them, what speed those connections are, whether or not PoE is being used on those ports, etc., as well as various diagnostic tools and the ability to see what sort of traffic and things have been going through the network over time. We've also got some cool features that allow you to implement greater security on your switches with just a few clicks. That includes things like loop guard, DHCP guard, making sure somebody doesn't plug in their own router and plug in the LAN to your LAN and take over DHCP. And also the ability to automatically detect devices' MAC address and based on the first 6 digits of that MAC address, automatically assign them to specific VLANs. So the question is, Nebula sounds interesting. I might be interested in using it. What's it going to cost me? And the short answer is nothing. Nebula is free. We do offer some optional licenses, and we will talk about those in a few minutes here. But the core version of Nebula, the core functionality is 100% free. So with Nebula, the free version, no caps on the number of customers you can manage, no caps on the number of sites you can manage, no caps on the number of devices you can manage. So when you look at our competition out there, some of them still do offer some free tiers, but those free tiers are normally heavily nerfed, limiting you to just a specific number of devices or customers that can be managed per account. Not so with Nebula. So I do want to talk here really quick about Nebula Flex. It's a term you will see on our price sheet and other places. So I want to explain what that is. So when we first launched Nebula back in 2016, almost 10 years ago, um, we copied the Cisco Meraki route of doing things. There was Nebula hardware, there was for cloud management, and there was standalone hardware for non-cloud management. So we have, for the most part, completely gotten away from that at this point, and now we offer what is called Nebula Flex. So with Nebula Flex, that just means single piece of hardware, single piece of firmware. It will operate by default in standalone mode, so your traditional network management. But if you do decide you want to manage that device in cloud mode, you can easily put it into cloud mode. So basically dual management, your traditional, management through a web GUI or command line or SNMP, or cloud management, your choice. So you can standardize in one set of hardware to use. Now, to put a device from standalone into cloud mode, it's really easy. You scan that QR code, you assign the device to a customer and a site in Nebula, and the device will automatically, within a minute or two, put itself into cloud mode and download the configuration from the cloud. If at any point you decide you no longer want to manage that device in the cloud, you simply go into Nebula, remove it from your Nebula inventory, and the device will automatically reboot in standalone mode with the default configuration. So really easy to switch back and forth. Now, earlier I mentioned we do have some optional licenses. So let's talk about the different tiers of licenses and service. So we have what's called base pack. That is what we call, is that working? I don't think that's working. There we go. No, that's the one I want. So we have base pack here. So base pack is what we call the free version of Nebula. And this is what the majority of our Nebula managed devices are in. They're using the base pack mode. Then we offer what is called Plus Pack and Pro Pack. So when we launched Nebula back in 2016, we had Base Pack and Pro Pack. And then we added a few years ago Plus Pack. So Plus Pack is sort of like an in-between license that is being used to compete with services by like Netgear and stuff like that. These sort of lightweight clouds that offer some limited functionality. That's what the Plus Pack is there for. We don't sell a lot of those. Most of you are probably interested in Pro Pack if you're not going to be using the free version of Nebula. So these are done on an organization basis, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. We also have another type of license called MSP pack. And as the name might imply, it is designed for those of you that are MSP. It is not a per org or per customer type license. It is a license that you assign to one or more of your admin accounts, and it unlocks additional features for those admin accounts. It gives them access to certain features, regardless of whether the customer's site is on the free version of Nebula, plus version of Nebula, or Pro Pack. It's a lot of tools for making it easy to manage, dozens or hundreds of customers or hundreds of sites, to be able to manage large numbers of admin accounts. So if you're an MSP and you've got 30, 40 different admins, MSP pack is something that you might be interested in looking into. So let's try to explain how Nebula works when it comes to the structure for managing things. So basically, you are going to have your ownership account. That's your primary account that creates organizations. You're usually going to put at least your customers, each of your customers is going to be put into their own organization. In some cases, you may have a customer with multiple organizations, but in general, you should only have no more than one customer per organization. And then under that organization, you have sites. So that's the physical location. So to give you an example here, maybe you're dealing with a Subway franchisee. So you would put, Cincinnati East Subway organization. Your customer would be his own org. And then under that, each one of his Subway locations would be their own site. You sign up another customer. This is Bob's Dentists, and he would have his own organization and he would have his own sites, one or more sites underneath that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason you are doing it this way is one, it's easier management, but more importantly, when it comes to your licenses, if you do decide you need to upgrade one of your customers to Plus or Pro Pack because they need access to some of those extra features, you do it on an org basis. So basically, you convert the organization from free mode to Pro Pack, for instance. So now that customer and only that customer is Pro Pack. And the way you do this is by buying Pro Pack licenses. So each device that is being used under that organization needs to have a valid Plus or Pro Pack license to convert the organization to Plus or Pro Pack. If you don't have enough licenses, you cannot convert the organization from free mode to Pro Pack. If one of the device's licenses expires, you will be given plenty of notifications via email and push notification to correct that. You will then also be given a 2-week grace period after the license expires to get it corrected before the organization drops back into free mode. Now, that is one thing to highlight here that makes us different than a lot of the other paid orgs, especially on the higher end, is you never get locked out of your devices or management of those devices or configuration of those devices. You simply always fall back into the free mode. So then we also have this MSP license. So the MSP license, again, is not done as a per device or per customer basis. This is done for your admin accounts. So any admin account that has an MSP license gets access to these additional features such as creating and managing teams and management tools designed to allow you to make changes across multiple customers simultaneously. So a lot of you will never use an MSP license, and those of you that do oftentimes will only buy one or two. Let's talk really quick about pricing because we always get questions on that. The MSP license has a street price of $99, again, per admin account that you want to use it. When it comes to the Pro Pack licensing is roughly $30 per device per year. So extremely cheap, especially when you compare us to something like Meraki. So when it comes to Nebula, basically everything that we're putting out these days can be managed in the Nebula cloud. So I want to talk here really quick. Basically everything is Nebula Flex, but some products you will see marketed as Nebula Flex Pro. So all that means when you see Pro is that means that device comes bundled with 1 year of a Pro Pack license with the device. So if you're planning to use Pro Pack, you'll get 1 year basically free for that device without needing to buy any additional licenses. So on the AP side of things, any access point that starts with the letter W is going to be a Nebula Flex Pro device. Any of our switches in the 1350, 2000 series, or 3000 series will be Nebula Flex Pro. And then any of our security gateway products that come bundled with a 1-year UTM license will also include 1 year of Nebula Pro with them. And then anything else I didn't mention here is just standard Nebula Flex. So that means if you want to use ProPack, you will need to buy a license and add that license before you can convert over to ProPack. So now for the most boring 2 slides in today's presentation, just a quick comparison of what's available and the different levels of licensing that are available. Kind of boring. I'm going to go through it quickly, but this is probably the #1 question people have when you say, hey, there's some optional licenses that you can purchase. A much more comprehensive version of these slides is available on our website. You can probably just go to Google, type in Zyxel Nebula Pro features or ProPack features, and it should give you a link to our website. There's lots of different things called Nebula out there, so putting Zyxel in the search get you what you're looking for. If you leave it out, it may not be as high on the results as you would like. So to begin with here, single pane of glass for management of the devices, zero touch provisioning, the ability to scan that QR code, the ability for the device to automatically recognize it's in Nebula, the ability to do over-the-air firmware updates and firmware scheduling, access to our user management and our user database in the cloud, the ability to configure all of the core features of your devices. That's all the same across free version, plus pack, and pro pack. So let's talk about what's different and focus on that. So one of the things that's different here is logs. So we store logs in the cloud for you. You can still set up your own syslog server and export all the cloud or all the logs you want. But if you want to use our storage of those logs, the free version of Nebula keeps a 24 hours worth of logs in the cloud. ProPack gives you a year worth of logs in the cloud. When it comes to that cloud database for users, whether you're using it for MAC filtering, for 802.1x, for captive portal authentication, free version of Nebula gives you 50 entries in that database. ProPack, it's unlimited. And again, if you're using the free version of Nebula, you can always set up your own radius to do authentication. The other area where there's a big difference here is going to be when it comes to admin accounts per organization. So when you're in Nebula, each organization with the free version of Nebula maxes out at 5 admin accounts, where ProPack gives you an unlimited number of admin accounts per organization. So again, you can have all the organizations you want, but each organization on the free version is limited to 5 admin accounts that have access to it. So some of the other features that you're getting with ProPack that you're not getting with the free version of Nebula is advanced firmware scheduling, the ability to set up different schedules for different classes of devices, or to create independent schedules for individual devices. Advanced reporting features, the ability to set up automatic reports that are emailed out with your branding on them. So you can use them for you to keep an eye on things or send them to your customer to show them what's going on their network with your branding on there. That's a ProPack feature. Automatic topology view, the ability to automatically generate a map showing you which devices are connected to which other devices, which client devices are plugged in or connected to which access points, etc. That's a ProPack feature. Audit logs. So in addition to getting a year's worth of just general logs stored in the cloud, ProPack gives you audit logs. So we'll check, and make it easy for you to find out who made the configuration change and when. So it's a handy tool when you're trying to troubleshoot something. Is that, you're thinking, well, maybe this feature was it. Oh, wait a minute, that feature, was changed 3 months ago. This problem only cropped up in the last 2 days, so it can't be that. Or alternately, hey, Bob changed this. Why did Bob make this configuration change yesterday? Let me go talk to him and see what's going on. Really handy tool there. Access to the ability to clone sites within an organization, to create templates to make changes across multiple sites simultaneously. Access to our advanced artificial intelligence features, Those are all ProPack features. So we'll talk a little bit about them a little bit more in depth slightly here. So this is that topology view I was talking about. So it automatically maps out your clients, which access point or switch they're connected to, which switch is upstream of that, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a handy tool for, figuring out the flow of information when you're trying to figure out connectivity issues. It also allows you to click on the devices in the topology view and gives you access to some configuration settings directly from the topology view. And when it comes to Zyxel devices, the ability to jump directly to the configuration page for those devices. It gives you access to DPPSK. So DPPSK is a really cool feature. It does not work in Wi-Fi 7. That is not a Zyxel problem. That is a Wi-Fi 7 problem. But let's talk about it quickly. What is DPPSK? So, when it comes to network security, the best way to do network security is each user gets their own unique password that they authenticate with using 802.1x. The problem with 802.1x is it's a configuration nightmare, and a lot of people don't like to do it. So what you end up with is businesses who are using pre-shared key technology designed for home users, where every user gets the same password to connect to the Wi-Fi network, which has obviously got some serious security issues, especially if you lay off some employees and they're not happy with you. So DPPSK basically gives you the convenience of pre-shared key with the security of 802.1x without all the configuration change nightmares of 802.1x. So basically each user gets their own pre-shared key. You have one SSID. Users connect to that with their own unique SSI or their own unique pre-shared key or password. And you enter it just like you would entering a standard pre-shared key when you're connecting to your home network. And the AP is able to see the user, see which key they used, and then can assign them to a specific VLAN based on that pre-shared key. So it's a really handy feature. So now I didn't mention it does not work with Wi-Fi 7. Why is that? So the Wi-Fi Alliance just this summer implemented some changes to how Wi-Fi 7 works if you want your device to be Wi-Fi 7 certified. So one of the things that the Wi-Fi Alliance now has mandated is that if you are using WP or you are using Wi-Fi 7, you must use WPA3. So we have had to change how we implement security in Nebula to comply with these requirements so we can remain Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi Alliance certified. So WPA3 does not work with DPPSK. It has to do with changes to how WPA3 works to make it more secure. And unfortunately, that extra security breaks pre-shared key DPPSK use. So if you want to use DPPSK, you do need a ProPack license, and you need to, if you're using Wi-Fi 7 APs, put them into Wi-Fi 6 mode. So you'll lose a little speed and some other Wi-Fi 7 features to use DPPSK. Continuing on, AI and machine learning, we've got some cool tools that allows Nebula to basically manage or monitor your wireless users and automatically make some tweaks and changes to the wireless settings based on what it's seen to help improve the user experience without you needing to get directly involved. So that's a ProPack feature. We've already talked about some of this here on the switches, some of the advanced features we've got on the switches. Some of these are ProPack features, some are not. I've already talked about them, so I'm going to skip them. Just because we're already at the end of our allotted 13 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about the security side of things, some of the cool things we can do in Nebula. So Nebula makes it super simple to do site-to-site VPNs. You simply go into Nebula, choose your customer's sites that they want to link together, choose the type of encryption you want and the network topology you want, and Nebula will take care of everything else when it comes to setting up and configuring those VPNs. It also makes things easier for remote workers. So we've got a number of different tools we can use here. One of them is we can send out a script that will automatically configure a Windows, Mac OS, or iOS client to the built-in VPN client on those devices to connect back to your your USG Flex security gateway. We also give you the ability with an extra license to be able to convert one of our access points into a cloud managed VPN appliance, specifically designed to be placed behind the customer's existing router. So no double net issues, nothing like that. No holes need to be punched. It will just work. So that's a cool feature that we offer there through Nebula. And then, of course, we on our security appliances, we have that SecuReporter tool, which is a fantastic tool for being able to visualize what's going on security-wise on your networks. So Nebula integrates directly with SecuReporter, making it really easy to jump between the Nebula interface and the SecuReporter reporting tool for you. So to finish up here, some questions we often get on Nebula that I want to answer in advance here for you. And again, if you do have additional questions, send them in using the Zoom interface, either using chat or Q&A. So we get a lot of questions about security, about how Nebula is architected, etc. So let's go through some of those. Nebula, the cloud portion of it, is hosted by Amazon AWS. It is not a piece of software you need to run. We do not allow you to have your own personal version of Nebula. Nebula is maintained by us in the cloud, hosted on Amazon AWS servers. So because of that, we have ridiculous uptime on the cloud portion of things. Now we often do, and it also allows us to basically have unlimited scalability. So as you add more and more customers, more and more devices, we automatically scale for you. Now, a common question we get is, well, what happens if the internet goes down? What happens if the fiber link to my customer's business gets cut? What happens? So I know on some other cloud hosted platforms, after a certain period of time, usually a very long period of time, but after a period of time, the devices will quit functioning because they can't verify their licenses. That is not the case with Nebula. Nebula devices will continue to run on their current configuration indefinitely until that WAN connection is restored. And of course, that means all the normal traffic on the local network continues to function just fine. We get a lot of questions when it comes to security. So unlike some other cloud vendors out there, we have not created our own in-house proprietary technology for managing communication between your client devices and our cloud. Instead, we use an industry standard called NetConf, Netconf. And that's what we use. So it's an open, I believe it's an openly published standard. It's out there for anybody to use. So we're using an industry standard when it comes to security and encryption of that communication between the Zyxel devices and the cloud itself. And we get a lot of questions about things like PCI or HIPAA. So using Nebula management has no impact on PCI or HIPAA, or if you're doing business in Europe, what is shoot at GDPR, any of those things. None of your customers' data is hitting our servers. The only thing that's being transmitted to the Nebula cloud is management, right? Configuration changes, device logs, and that's it. So customers' LAN traffic stays on the customer's LAN. Customers' WAN traffic goes directly out to the internet, bypassing our servers. So nothing is touching our servers. We have no effect on that. Plenty of customers using Nebula in HIPAA and PCI deployments. So just to finally summarize here, great things about Nebula, it's super easy to use. It simplifies your life. It's basically free up front. It adds no additional cost to the hardware. So it's free to test out. It's free to use. And if you do need some access to some of those extra MSP type features, you know, the licenses are very affordable, especially compared to most of the competition that's out there for you as far as a cloud hosted platform. Basically, just simplifies, makes things easier for you. So you're saying, hey, this sounds great, Sean. I'd like to try out Nebula. How do I do that? Easiest way, go to nebula.zyxel.com, go to that login page, and at the bottom, there's a link to a button that says live demo. You can click that and you can play around with some live demos. You say, well, that's great and all, but you know, there's certain features that are missing from the live demo for obvious reasons, or there's certain scenarios I can't test on it. If you are a Zyxel reseller partner of ours, we are doing a 60-day demo kit, which gets you a gateway, a switch and a access point that you get to play around with free for 60 days. And then at the end of 60 days, you can either return it to us, or if you decide to keep it, we will sell it to you below distribution cost for that demo kit. So again, you do need to be a reseller. It's not available to end users. It's only available to resellers who have joined and been approved for our partner program, but that's another tool that's out there for you. Then if you missed today's presentation or you want to share it with somebody, it will be uploaded to our YouTube page within the next 24 hours. So that is Zyxel America channel on YouTube. Because we are a global company, there's a lot of different Zyxel branded channels on Nebula, or excuse me, on YouTube. So Zyxel America channel is the one where my presentations Try's presentations are uploaded. And with that, we are done. I'll stick around here for just another minute. I don't see that any questions have been sent in, but I'll stick around if you've got some that you're working on typing in. My email is also up there on the screen, seanr@zyxel.com. So Sean is spelled phonetically SHAWN. So SHAWNR@zyxel.com. And of course, if you're one of our reseller partners, you can always reach out to your salesperson, Andy, David, or Jacob, with any questions that you have. And if you don't know the answer, they can reach out to me or they can reach out to our sales engineer to get the answer. I am not seeing any questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned a little something here, and I hope to see you at one of our future webinars. Thank you.